In Laboratory Reddit, today's story is:
My daughter got a face tattoo at 16 and threatened to destroy me. I let her go and today she came home trembling. It all started when I met Nancy at a college party. She was a year older than me, and what started as a casual encounter at the party ended up being a one-night stand. At the time neither of us thought anything of it, but that single encounter resulted in an unexpected pregnancy. When she found out, Nancy wasn't sure she wanted to have the baby. I told her I would respect whatever she decided, as it was her body and her decision. However, her parents, who were very religious, pressured her not to terminate the pregnancy. After much thought, Nancy decided to continue with the pregnancy, but made it very clear that she did not want to raise a child. Her plan was to put the baby up for adoption after the birth. When I heard this, I felt I couldn't allow it. The idea of my child growing up with strangers and not knowing me seemed unbearable. I spoke to my parents about the situation and they were incredibly understanding. Together we thought of a solution. I met with Nancy and proposed something different. After the birth, she would give me full custody of the baby. I assured her that she would never have to take care of anything and that I would take care of everything. Nancy agreed and that's exactly how it happened. The birth of Luna changed my life forever. The first time I held her in my arms, I was overcome with such love that it left me speechless. She was so small and perfect, and in that moment I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. My father had told me that being a father was one of the most difficult but most important paths that anyone could take. He told me that everything would make sense when I held my daughter in my arms, and he was right. Holding Luna gave me a purpose that I had never felt before. It made me feel that I could face anything for her. After the birth, Nancy signed the papers giving me full custody, even though her parents strongly opposed it. She stood firm in her decision and, once everything was legal, she returned to her university life as if nothing had happened. She concentrated on her studies and her social life, leaving me with all the responsibility of raising Luna, which was exactly what I wanted. I'll be honest, being a single father wasn't easy. I was still at university trying to manage my classes, work and taking care of Luna. Without my parents, I don't know how I would have managed. They were an incredible support, helping me every step of the way. The three of us made sure that Luna was always surrounded by love and attention. While I went to class, my mother took care of Luna. When I returned, I would spend as much time as possible with her before going to work. During my shift at work, my parents would take care of her again. Even with all their help, I felt it was my responsibility to support Luna myself. I didn't want to rely on my parents for expenses, so I worked as much as I could during college to earn money. It wasn't easy to balance everything and there were days when I was exhausted, but Luna was my priority. The love I felt for her made it all worthwhile. Nancy, who was a year older, graduated before me and immediately moved to another city with her boyfriend at the time. She never asked about Luna or showed any interest, and to be honest, I was fine with that. By then, I had accepted that Nancy was not part of Luna's life. She saw me as her only parent and my goal was to give her the best life possible. When I finally graduated and got a full-time job as an analyst, I was able to move Luna and me into our own apartment. It was a moment of great pride. Being able to support myself and give my daughter a home. My parents adored Luna and would have gladly continued to help, but I wanted to give them a break after all they had done for us. Raising Luna was not without its challenges. There were sleepless nights, endless chores and the constant balancing act between work and parenting, but over time I created routines that worked for us. It wasn't perfect and there were difficult days, but I learned to manage. With practice and a lot of love, I made it work. At every moment, Luna was my motivation to keep going and seeing her smile made all the difficulties worthwhile. As Luna grew up, she naturally began to ask about her mother. I decided to always be honest with her. I explained that her mother had chosen a different path, one that didn't include raising children, but I assured her that it was okay because we had each other. I didn't want to lie or make up stories that might give her false hope. I thought it was better that she knew the truth, even if it wasn't easy to hear. For years, this approach seemed to work well. By the time Luna turned 15, our life had a happy and stable rhythm. She was doing very well in school, she had good close friends, and we had built a life together that felt complete. Our little family worked and we were happy. Everything changed when Luna turned 16. Suddenly, Nancy, who had been completely absent since she gave up custody, contacted me on Facebook. She said she had been thinking a lot about Luna and wanted to meet her. Her message surprised me greatly. The idea that Nancy wanted to re-enter our lives worried me a lot. It wasn't just that she had given up her rights as a mother years ago, there were deeper concerns about who Nancy was as a person. Even at university, she had always been problematic, hanging out with the wrong crowd and making bad decisions. I knew she had a history of taking drugs with her various boyfriends, and I couldn't imagine that someone like that would be good for Luna. More importantly, we didn't need Nancy in our lives. Luna and I had built something strong and stable together. Nancy's sudden interest seemed more like an invasion than an opportunity. I replied to her message, being firm but polite. I told her that Luna was doing very well without her and that if she wanted to meet her, she would have to wait until she turned 18. At that point, I explained, it would be Luna's decision whether or not she wanted to meet her biological mother. Nancy read my message but did not reply. For a while, I thought she had understood and hoped that would be the end of it. I wanted to protect Luna from any unnecessary problems, especially as we had worked so hard to create a happy and stable life together. However, I later discovered that Nancy had contacted Luna without my knowledge. Apparently, Nancy manipulated the situation by telling Luna that I didn't want her to meet her biological mother and that it was my fault that Luna didn't have a mother. Unfortunately, Luna didn't tell me about these conversations at the time, and Nancy's influence began to show in the way she treated me. Over the following days and weeks, I noticed a big change in Luna's behavior. She started to become distant, rude and more irritable with me than usual. This was completely unlike her. Luna had always been sweet, kind and considerate. At first, I thought these were normal changes of adolescence. But as time went by, I realized it was something more serious. Luna seemed to be completely pulling away, avoiding spending time with me and even dodging any conversation with me. It hurt to see my daughter pull away like that, especially when we had always been so close. Then something very worrying happened. One afternoon, Luna didn't come home at her normal time after school. I waited for almost 2 hours, increasingly worried. Normally, if Luna stayed late at a friend's house or had something after school, she would always send me a message to let me know. It was something we had been doing for years so that I wouldn't worry or bother her by asking where she was. But this time, there was no message, no warning, nothing. Worried, I sent her several messages asking if she was okay. I hoped she had just forgotten to reply, but deep down, I felt that something was not right. Luna finally arrived home that night, much later than usual. As soon as I saw her, I realized something was wrong. She looked very sad. Her shoulders were slumped, her face showed a lot of sadness. Worried, I asked her if everything was all right. It was then that she suddenly started to cry. Between sobs, she told me that she had met her biological mother and had found out what she had supposedly been hiding from her for years. I was surprised and asked her what she meant. Luna then told me that Nancy had contacted her on Facebook a few weeks ago. She confessed that they had been talking ever since, and that Nancy had been saying things about me that made her doubt everything. Luna admitted that these conversations were affecting her and making her see me in a different light. My daughter explained that Nancy had even convinced her to keep these conversations a secret, which was why she hadn't said anything to me. That afternoon, they had finally met in person, and Nancy had filled her head with more worrying accusations. According to Luna, Nancy told her that I had forced her to give up custody, painting me as the bad guy who had purposely kept her away from her biological mother. Nancy also told her that it was entirely my fault that Luna didn't have a mother in her life and that it had been selfish of me to raise her without Nancy's involvement. Hearing this broke my heart. I could see how confused Luna was. Torn between what she had always believed and the lies Nancy was now telling her. As much as I wanted to react angrily, I knew I needed to stay calm. I took a deep breath and explained to Luna once again that Nancy was not telling her the truth. I reminded her of everything I had told her before. The real reasons why Nancy had chosen not to get involved in the decisions we had made to ensure that Luna had a stable and loving home. I assured her that my parents, who loved her as if she were their own daughter, would never lie to her about something so important. I explained that if Nancy had really wanted to be part of her life, we would have accepted her. But Nancy had made her decision all those years ago. I hoped that by keeping quiet and repeating the truth, Luna would begin to see that Nancy was lying to her, but I realized that the damage was already done. Luna refused to listen to me and yelled at me for keeping her away from her mother. That night, I was so angry with Nancy for meddling in our lives that I took her phone, looked up Nancy's number and called her directly. I demanded to know why she was manipulating my daughter and filling her head with such obvious lies. Instead of backing down, Nancy insisted on her lies. She told me that she was too young at university to really understand what was going on when she gave up custody, but that now that she was older and more mature, she had every right to be part of Luna's life. She made it clear that she could no longer keep her daughter away from her. As a result, despite my objections and my attempts to set limits, Nancy continued to see Luna regularly. This made me feel very uncomfortable, but I felt powerless to stop it. I tried everything I could to make Luna see the truth, but she seemed determined to believe her mother over me. Over time, Nancy began to act as if she had every right to be Luna's mother. She wanted to know more and more about her life and was getting more and more involved in her world. As the weeks went by, Luna's behavior only got worse. It was as if I didn't even recognize her anymore. The sweet and considerate daughter I had raised was disappearing, and in her place was someone who was increasingly rebellious and distant. One day, she came home with Nancy and I was shocked to see that she had gotten a tattoo on her face. I couldn't believe my eyes. To be clear, I have no problem with tattoos in general, but a tattoo on her face at 16? It was an impulsive decision that I would have tried to prevent if I had known about it beforehand. When I asked Luna how this had happened, she told me casually that she had been thinking about getting a tattoo for a while. Nancy had encouraged her, taken her to the tattoo studio and helped her decide to get it on her face. I was furious. Who in their right mind allows, or even worse, encourages a 16-year-old teenager to get a tattoo on their face? I couldn't hide my anger and I admit that I raised my voice. I told her how irresponsible and ill-considered the decision had been, not only because of her age, but also because of how permanent such a visible tattoo is, but Luna didn't care. She dismissed my concerns as if they were an exaggeration. Nancy also got involved and accused me of being controlling, saying that when she was 16, she had done worse things than getting a tattoo. So I shouldn't make such a big deal out of this. I felt completely undermined as a father. Not only was Nancy interfering in how I raised my daughter, but now she was actively encouraging her to make irresponsible decisions without even consulting me. I turned to Nancy, furious, and told her she should be ashamed of herself. I reminded her that Luna was still a child and needed responsible guidance, not someone who encouraged her to make impulsive and bad decisions. But she refused to back down. She argued that she had done nothing wrong in supporting Luna and insisted that our daughter could do whatever she wanted with her life. After that argument, things only got worse. Luna became bolder and more defiant every day. She started to break all the boundaries she could. She got piercings without my permission, then dyed her hair in very bright colors. And soon after, she started wearing clothes that were very inappropriate for school, clothes that not only went against the rules, but also attracted attention in a bad way. On top of that, she started hanging out with bad influences at school. Kids who cut classes a lot and had a reputation for being troublemakers. Her grades started to drop a lot. Luna, who had always been a bright and capable student, was now failing one of her classes. I felt like I was watching my daughter sink. I didn't know how to stop it. I tried everything I could think of. I sat her down for many heart-to-heart conversations, trying to understand what was going on in her mind and why she was acting the way she was. I encouraged her to talk to a school counselor, hoping that someone else could reach her in a way that I couldn't. I even asked my parents to try talking to her, thinking she might open up to them if she felt I was being too pushy, but nothing worked. Luna didn't want to listen to me or anyone else. All the time, Nancy kept making things worse and encouraging Luna to defy me, undermining every effort I made to help her. I felt like I was losing my daughter, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't reach her. This year, when Luna turned 17, I organized her birthday party, as I always did. It was a tradition I cherished, a way to celebrate her and bring the family together. However, this year's celebration turned into something painful and embarrassing that left me speechless. Luna had insisted that Nancy be invited. As she wanted her birth mother to be present, despite my misgivings, I agreed, wanting to avoid further trouble and hoping to keep the peace for the sake of the occasion. What I wasn't expecting was Luna's shocking dress and behavior at the party. She entered the gathering wearing a see-through fishnet dress with a neon bikini underneath. She had cut her long hair and now had a very short cut. On top of this, she had a new tattoo on her foot, one that was large, elaborate and very visible through her fishnet clothing. The whole ensemble combined with her piercings and facial tattoo was shocking to everyone present. As expected, many of my relatives were surprised. To put it into context, most of them hadn't seen Luna for quite some time, so her dramatic change was unsettling. It wasn't just her physical appearance. It was the clothes she had chosen for the occasion. The chainmail dress was too revealing for a family gathering and left little to the imagination. Some of my relatives, especially the older ones, were visibly horrified. And to make matters worse, Luna didn't seem to care about the discomfort she was causing. She walked with great confidence, ignoring the murmurs and sideways glances. I wanted to talk to my daughter, but it was her birthday. I didn't want to ruin her day, so I let it go. During the party, Nancy kept trying to get Luna to drink wine, which really annoyed me. When I saw this, I calmly but firmly told Nancy to stop encouraging our underage daughter to drink. Instead of stopping, Nancy responded by shouting that she was also a mother, that she knew what she was doing and that I should not interfere in her parenting decisions. Luna, siding with Nancy, told me to relax and revealed casually that she had already drunk alcohol before. Surprised, I immediately asked Luna when this had happened. And that's when she told me, as calmly as if nothing had happened, that Nancy had taken her to a bar before, during one of their outings, and that she had gotten very drunk after her fourth or fifth glass of whiskey. I couldn't believe what I was hearing from my daughter's lips. My blood was boiling, and all my attempts to remain calm went out the window. I lost control and confronted Nancy in front of everyone at the party. I shouted at her that she had no right to expose my underage daughter to such irresponsible behavior, and that she was setting an incredibly dangerous example. In my anger, I told Nancy that what she was doing was illegal, and that I could call Child Protective Services or the police and have her arrested for endangering a minor. To my horror, Luna jumped to Nancy's defense, insisting that I shouldn't blame her mother because it had been her idea from the start. She said she had asked Nancy to take her to the bar because she wanted to try alcohol and argued that Nancy had simply agreed. Nancy defended herself by accusing me of exaggerating and being too possessive of Luna. Her words hurt me, especially when she told me that if I continued to act this way, Luna would eventually turn away from me because, according to her, nobody likes a suffocating parent. I stood my ground and told Nancy that protecting Luna from underage drinking was not being overprotective. It was literally my duty as a father and I was in accordance with the law. But before I could say more, Luna exploded with anger. She screamed that she was fed up with me always treating her like a child. She threatened that she wouldn't let me attack her mother, and that if I went ahead and reported her mother to Child Protective Services, she would testify against me. She even went so far as to say that she would make up false stories about me abusing her just to get me into trouble. I was frozen. My mouth opened and for a moment I couldn't understand what she was saying. My own daughter, my Luna, was threatening to ruin me. The daughter I had raised with all the love and dedication I had to give. The one for whom I had sacrificed so much was now there, threatening to lie and destroy my reputation. Luna went on, her voice full of defiance, saying that this was exactly why she liked being with Nancy more than with me. According to her, Nancy was a fun mother, she let her do what she wanted and didn't try to control her life like I supposedly did. Luna called me a horrible father for always getting in the way of her happiness and said she wished she could live with Nancy instead of me. Those words cut me like a knife. I stood there in the middle of the party surrounded by family, feeling as if the ground had been pulled out from under my feet. My parents and relatives tried to defend me, but no matter what they said, Luna showed no sign of regret on her face. After this incident, I honestly felt that something inside me broke. Luna's public humiliation of me, calling me a horrible father and threatening to lie about me, destroyed the relationship we had. The worst part was that she never apologized for what she did. In the end I realized that if she no longer wanted to live with me, maybe it was time to give her the space she seemed to want so much. I called a meeting with Luna and Nancy after her birthday party and told them that Luna had my permission to move in with Nancy, as she wanted. I explained that until Luna turned 18, I would continue to support her financially by sending money for her expenses every month. But beyond that, she would no longer be part of their lives as she had been. They both seemed surprised, but in the end they seemed happy with my decision. Luna moved out and started living with Nancy. Over time, she would call me from time to time, but they were always short conversations. It still hurt and every time we spoke it was a reminder of everything we had lost. Then today, out of the blue, I got a message from Luna saying that she regretted moving in with her mother. I was speechless. I immediately asked her to explain what she meant, but she didn't give me many details. Now I don't know what to do. I want to understand what's going on in her head. Maybe Luna is finally starting to see the consequences of her decisions. But at the same time, I don't want to push her away again. I don't want to be the reason she turns against me again. So I ask, am I a bad person for having let my daughter go and live with her irresponsible mother? Update 1. I understand that many think I should never have let Luna move out, no matter what. But please try to understand that being a single parent is not easy, especially when you feel like you are constantly being undermined and manipulated. Nancy is a liar and a manipulator. She filled my daughter's head with ideas against me. Besides, the truth is that the more you pressure a teenager, the more they rebel. If I hadn't let Luna go with Nancy, she would have found other ways to show her anger with me and I wasn't ready for that kind of trouble. Deep down, I just wanted Luna to see the truth for herself. I didn't want to be the one always telling her what was right and wrong. I wanted her to come to that conclusion on her own. I wanted her to see Nancy as I saw her and understand exactly why I tried so hard to protect her from her birth mother. Update 2. Today, Luna showed up at my house. She didn't look like herself. She was pale. She seemed upset. I let her in straight away and gave her a glass of water to calm down. After she had taken a moment to compose herself, she told me something I wasn't expecting. She couldn't live with her mother anymore and wanted to come back to me. I could see how distressed she was, so I asked her to tell me exactly what had been going on. That's when Luna opened up and told me everything. It turns out that after moving in with Nancy, she started to see how she really was. Living with her every day was completely different from the few hours she had spent with her mother before. Nancy drank alcohol all day long. By the time she reached her 6th or 7th glass of whiskey, she became a nasty drunk. Luna felt she always had to take care of her mother, cooking, cleaning and doing everything around the house. At first, Luna thought it was something she could do to help. But over time, it became a daily obligation. Nancy would get angry and demand that Luna do things for her, and it started to feel more like a burden than something she wanted to do. To make matters worse, Nancy was using the money I sent for Luna's expenses on things for herself. She bought clothes, makeup and other things while refusing to give Luna money when she needed it. Nancy also never encouraged Luna to focus on her homework or finish her schoolwork. Luna was afraid of failing high school, but Nancy never cared or supported her. Nancy also brought a different man home every night, and Luna began to feel insecure. She no longer felt comfortable or safe in her own home, and it all became too much for her. I asked Luna why she hadn't told me all this before, and that if I had known, I might have been able to help her sooner. She looked down for a moment, clearly annoyed with herself, and then told me that she knew how much her words had hurt me during her birthday party, and she didn't want to admit that she had been wrong. Luna said she had been stupid to believe Nancy and turn her back on me all those months ago. She apologized from the bottom of her heart and begged me to let her come back and live with me. Hearing her apologize and admit her mistakes was a relief. I could see how much she regretted her decisions. I gave her a hug and assured her that this was her home. If she didn't feel comfortable living with Nancy, she could always come back to me. I told her she had spoken well and asked her to try to fix things. Luna seemed so relieved to hear that, and for the first time in a long time, I saw peace in her eyes. After she left, I contacted Nancy, planning to meet with her in a few days to talk things over. I'm not sure what will come of the conversation, but I want to protect my daughter. Now more than ever I need to make sure she is in a safe and healthy environment. Update 3, it's been a while since my last update, as I've been very busy with everything. Luna has moved back in with me, and although I'm relieved to have her here, the situation with Nancy was not easy at all. Nancy fought as hard as she could to prevent Luna from coming back to me. She accused me of putting ideas in Luna's head against her, trying to make it seem like I was the one manipulating the situation, but I made it clear to Nancy that this was Luna's decision, not mine. Luna herself repeated the reasons she had told me about how uncomfortable she felt living with Nancy. Nancy tried to threaten Luna, saying that if she moved out, she would stop talking to her forever. It was very sad to see Nancy use that kind of threat, but I defended Luna and told Nancy that she was just a child, that she had every right to change her mind without being threatened. I made it clear that Luna's well-being and happiness were the most important thing, and that she was not going to be pressured to stay in a place where she did not feel safe or cared for. In the end, Nancy left, and since then, she hasn't contacted Luna at all. I don't know what will happen in the future with their relationship. Luna seems sorry for everything that has happened, and I can see how much she has been thinking about her decisions. She has promised me that she will try to do better, and I believe her. I have also convinced her to start seeing a therapist, and she has agreed, which is a big step. I think talking to someone will help her process everything she's been through. I'm also going to talk to her teacher to see how we can improve her grades and get her back on track. I know it's going to take time, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to support her. I'm just glad to have my daughter back home at last.